Welcome everyone. Today we unravel the intriguing tale of A Letter to God. This classic chapter from your 10th grade English syllabus is not only a captivating story, but also a treasure trove of important literary elements. It serves as a brilliant introduction to the depth and beauty of English literature, and its relevance extends far beyond the confines of your school curriculum. In this video, we'll dissect the story, guided by the insightful explanations of our teacher, Channi. We'll explore the main characters, the significant plot points, and the underlying themes that drive the story forward. We'll also delve into the key messages and takeaways that this chapter offers. From understanding the context and nuances of this iconic chapter to learning how to make the most of your English literature classes, we've got you covered. Are you ready to dive into this fascinating world? Here we go. Our story revolves around a simple farmer named Lencho. But what makes his story special? Set in a small rural village, our tale begins with Lencho, a hard-working farmer, awaiting the much-needed rain for his crops. The rain finally arrives, but it's not what Lencho had hoped for. Instead of the gentle showers that would nourish his crops, what descends is a destructive hailstorm that lays waste to his entire field. Lencho is devastated. His crops, his only source of income, are ruined. But Lencho is a man of faith. He believes in a higher power, in God. He decides to write a letter to God asking for help. Yes, you heard that right. Lencho pens a letter addressing it to God and requests a sum of 100 pesos to sow his field again. He takes the letter to the local post office and mails it. Now, this is where things take an interesting turn. The postmaster, amused and moved by Lencho's faith, decides to help. He and his employees manage to collect and send Lencho a sum of money. However, they could only gather 70 pesos. They send the money to Lencho, hoping it would suffice. Lencho, upon receiving the money, is grateful but also confused. He had asked for 100 pesos, but there are only 70. He concludes that the post office workers must have taken the rest. In his simplicity and innocence, he writes another letter to God, thanking him but also requesting that next time, the money should be sent directly to avoid the thieving hands at the post office. So, there you have it. A simple farmer, a devastating storm, a letter to God, a kind-hearted postmaster, and a tale of unmatched faith. This story, though straightforward, is filled with layers of meaning and lessons. It explores themes of faith, innocence, and human kindness. The characters in the story are well-crafted and relatable. Lencho, with his unwavering faith and innocence, is the heart of the story. His actions, though seemingly naive, reflect a deep belief in divine intervention. The postmaster, on the other hand, embodies the spirit of human kindness. He goes out of his way to help Lencho, not because he has to, but because he is moved by Lencho's faith. The settings, too, play a significant role in the story. The rural landscape, the destructive storm, the humble post office, they all add depth to the narrative and set the stage for the unfolding events. The plot of the story is simple yet powerful. It's a tale of hope amidst despair, faith in the face of adversity, and human kindness in an often cynical world. The twist at the end adds a touch of humor and irony to the story, making it all the more memorable. A simple tale indeed, but it holds profound messages. Can you guess what they are? Every story is built with words, and some words carry more weight. Can you recall any from this chapter? The beauty of literature lies in the power of words and phrases. They not only shape the narrative, but also add depth to the characters and their emotions. Let's delve into a few significant words and phrases from the chapter, A Letter to God. One phrase that stands out is unshakable faith. This phrase describes the protagonist Lencho's belief in God. His faith is so strong that it remains unscathed despite the devastation caused by the hailstorm. It's Lencho's unshakable faith that propels him to write a letter to God, a key event in the story. Next, we come across the word irony. Irony is a literary device used to express something different from and often opposite to their literal meaning. In our chapter, the irony lies in Lencho's perception of the post office employees. He believes they are God's helpers, whereas in reality, they are ordinary humans trying to help him out of empathy. The phrase, a cruel joke of fate, is another significant one. It describes the hailstorm that destroys Lencho's crop. The phrase beautifully encapsulates the unpredictability of life and the harshness of Lencho's circumstances. Lastly, the word ingratitude stands out. It refers to a lack of gratitude. In the chapter, Lencho's ingratitude towards the post office employees who help him, despite his belief that it was God, adds a layer of complexity to his character. Each of these words and phrases plays a pivotal role in shaping the narrative and the characters. They capture the essence of the story, provide depth to the characters, and evoke a range of emotions in the reader. Words are the building blocks of a story. Understanding them can enhance our appreciation of the tale. So let's continue to explore the power of words as we move forward in our exciting journey of English literature. Now, let's sift through the story to identify the key points. Remember, every detail counts. Our tale, A Letter to God, is a simple yet profound narrative that revolves around a farmer named Lencho. The story's beauty lies in its simplicity and the significant points that subtly weave the narrative fabric. Firstly, we encounter Lencho's unshakable faith in God. Despite his crop being destroyed by a hailstorm, Lencho doesn't lose hope. Instead, he pens a letter to God, asking for monetary assistance. This act doesn't just reflect his innocence and naivety, but also his deep-rooted belief in divine intervention. Next, we have the postmaster's response. When he comes across Lencho's letter, he is moved by the farmer's faith. In an unexpected act of kindness, he decides to help Lencho, exhibiting the innate goodness in humanity. This point underlines the theme of compassion and benevolence that resonates throughout the story. Then, we witness the irony in the tale. Lencho, upon receiving the money, isn't grateful but rather indignant, as the amount is less than what he had asked for. He blames the post office workers, unaware that they were his benefactors. Here, the story explores the concept of human judgment and its often flawed nature. Lastly, we delve into the story's title itself, A Letter to God. It serves as a significant point as it encapsulates the essence of the narrative. The letter symbolizes Lencho's faith, the response represents human kindness, and the aftermath reflects the ironies of life. Moreover, these key points are not just plot devices, but also reflections of the story's underlying themes, including faith, kindness, and irony. They contribute to the overall message of the narrative and help us, the readers, to derive deeper meanings and understanding. These points form the backbone of our story, reminding us of the depth and simplicity. How well can you articulate your understanding of the story? Let's explore a potential long answer question. Today, we'll examine a typical long answer question that might come up in your exams. The question is, discuss the theme of faith and hope as presented in the story, A Letter to God. Firstly, we need to understand that A Letter to God is not just a simple tale about a farmer and his crops. It's a profound story that delves into the themes of faith, hope, and the human spirit. The protagonist, Lencho, is a poor farmer whose livelihood depends on the success of his crops. When a hailstorm destroys his crops, he doesn't lose faith. Instead, he writes a letter to God asking for help. The theme of faith is embodied by Lencho. Despite his dire circumstances, Lencho never loses his faith in God. He believes that God, who knows everything, is aware of his predicament and will help him. This unwavering faith that Lencho has in God is beautifully portrayed in the story. Now let's talk about the theme of hope. Lencho's hope is depicted through his actions after the hailstorm. He doesn't wallow in despair or give up. Instead, he writes a letter to God, expressing his need and hoping for a response. When he receives money from the post office, his hope is rewarded, further reinforcing his faith. The story also shows that hope and faith are interconnected. Lencho's faith fuels his hope, and his hope strengthens his faith. Even when he receives less money than he asked for, he doesn't lose hope or faith. Instead, he believes that it's the people at the post office who kept some of the money. Now, how does this tie back to the key points we discussed earlier? Remember when we talked about Lencho's character and the symbolism of the hailstorm? Lencho's unwavering faith and hope are part of his character, shaping his actions and reactions throughout the story. The hailstorm symbolizes the challenges we face in life. Like Lencho, we can choose to respond with faith and hope, believing in a higher power or in the goodness of people. In conclusion, the story A Letter to God presents the themes of faith and hope through the character of Lencho and his actions. Despite facing a devastating loss, Lencho chooses to respond with faith and hope, which ultimately brings him help and reaffirms his beliefs. This story encourages us to maintain our faith and hope, even in difficult circumstances. So when you're asked to discuss the themes of a story, remember to delve into the characters, their actions, and the events of the story. Link them back to the themes and provide a thorough analysis. This will not only answer the question, but also show your deep understanding of the text. Remember, writing is a skill that improves with practice, so keep practicing. How about we test our understanding with some NCERT questions? Ready to take the challenge? Let's get our gears moving with the first question, which asks us to describe the main character, Lencho. Lencho, as we know, is a poor but hardworking farmer who has an unwavering faith in God. Despite facing the unfortunate event of losing his crops to a hailstorm, Lencho's hope never wavers. He believes that God will help him, and he writes a letter to God asking for aid. His faith is pure and unadulterated, a testament to his character. Moving on to the second question, what did the postmaster do after reading Lencho's letter? Well, the postmaster was moved by Lencho's faith and, despite finding it amusing, decided to help him. He collected money from his colleagues and sent it to Lencho as a reply to his letter. Here we see the postmaster playing the role of God, an interesting twist in the story. Our third question is a thought-provoking one. What does the story tell us about the nature of God? The story doesn't directly talk about God's nature, but through Lencho's unwavering faith and the postmaster's actions, we can infer that God works in mysterious ways. It suggests that God may not directly intervene, but will inspire others to help those in need. Now let's tackle the fourth question. Why did Lencho say the money sent to him was not enough? Here we see a mix of Lencho's faith and naivety. Lencho believes that God has answered his prayers, but he also thinks that the post office employees have taken a part of his money. He doesn't realize that the entire amount was raised by the postmaster and his colleagues, which brings a touch of irony to the story. The fifth question wants us to explore the theme of the story. The theme of A Letter to God revolves around faith and hope. It tells us that faith can be powerful and can inspire others to act. The story also emphasizes that help can come from unexpected quarters, reiterating the concept of faith in a higher power. The last question for today asks us, what is the irony in the story? The irony lies in Lencho's faith. He believes in God so much that he writes a letter to him, and when he receives the money, he thinks it's God who has helped him. However, it's actually the postmaster and his colleagues who collect and send the money to Lencho. The irony deepens when Lencho blames the post office for stealing part of his money, not knowing they were the ones who helped him. Well done! Remember, the more you practice, the better you get. Always keep in mind that these questions not only test your memory, but also your understanding of the text. They encourage you to think beyond the words and grasp the underlying themes and messages. So keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep learning. You're doing great, and I'm sure you'll continue to do so. Until next time, happy studying! And with that, we reach the end of our journey with A Letter to God. We've traversed the plot, met the characters, and delved deep into the heart of this captivating story. Let's take a moment to reflect on the key points we've discussed today. We began with a thorough summary of the chapter where we met Lencho, a simple farmer with unwavering faith in God. His story, set against the backdrop of a drought-stricken village, was a testament to the power of faith and the human spirit. We learned how Lencho's letter to God, while seemingly naive, was an expression of his steadfast belief in divine intervention. Next, we explored some of the important words in the chapter. These words not only enriched our vocabulary, but also deepened our understanding of the story. We discovered how words like drought, crops, postmaster, and envelope played vital roles in shaping the narrative. We then moved on to the significant points in the chapter. We discussed the theme of faith, the contrast between Lencho's belief and the postmaster's practical approach, and the irony in the story's conclusion. These points gave us a nuanced perspective of the story and its underlying messages. Our discussion on the long answer question allowed us to delve into the deeper layers of the story. We pondered upon the moral implications of the postmaster's actions and the significance of Lencho's unwavering faith. Finally, we tackled some NCERT questions, which not only tested our understanding of the chapter but also helped us to prepare for our exams. As we conclude, let's remember that A Letter to God is more than just a story. It's a lesson on faith, hope, and the human spirit. It's a reminder that sometimes in our darkest hours, faith can be our guiding light. Remember, every story has something to teach us. So keep reading, keep learning, and keep growing.